Self-discipline is the foundation upon which every lasting success is built. It is not a trait that one is born with, but a skill that can be learned, practiced, and strengthened through conscious effort. In a world filled with distractions, instant gratification, and countless excuses, the ability to stay focused and committed to one's goals has become a rare yet powerful quality. Those who possess self-discipline are not necessarily more talented or intelligent than others. They simply have learned to master their impulses, control their emotions, and take consistent action toward their vision, even when they don't feel like it. This book is for anyone who has ever set a goal but failed to follow through, who has struggled with procrastination, temptation, or lack of motivation. It is a guide to understanding what self-discipline truly means and how it can transform your life from the inside out. Through practical steps, psychological insights, and real-world strategies, you will learn how to build the mindset that allows you to push past obstacles, silence your excuses, and achieve what you once thought was out of reach. Developing self-discipline is not about punishing yourself or living a rigid life. It's about taking control of your choices and aligning your actions with your long-term purpose. It is about doing what needs to be done, not just what feels good in the moment. Every act of discipline, no matter how small, strengthens your ability to take command of your life. Over time, these small victories accumulate and become the foundation for greater confidence, freedom, and fulfillment. The journey may not be easy, but it will be worth it, because mastering yourself is the first and most important step to mastering your destiny. Chapter 1. Self-discipline, its importance, and why it is lacking in most. Self-discipline is the ability to control one's emotions, thoughts, and actions in the face of temptations, distractions, or challenges. It is the conscious decision to act according to what is right and beneficial rather than what is easy or comfortable. At its core, self-discipline is about consistency. It is the strength that keeps you aligned with your goals and values when motivation fades. Many people misunderstand self-discipline as a form of suppression or self-denial, but in reality, it is an act of self-respect. It means valuing your long-term vision over short-term pleasure and choosing growth over comfort. There is an important distinction between willpower and self-discipline. Willpower is the spark that gets you started. It is the burst of energy that pushes you to begin a new habit or make a tough decision. However, willpower is fleeting. It diminishes with overuse and cannot sustain you over long periods. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is endurance. It is the system you build around your goals, the routines and habits that keep you moving forward, even when your motivation runs out. Willpower initiates change, but self-discipline maintains it. Without self-discipline, even the strongest willpower eventually fades. Many people lack self-discipline not because they are incapable, but because they have been conditioned by their environment and habits to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. From an early age, we are programmed to chase instant gratification. Social media, entertainment, and convenience constantly reinforce the habit of taking the easy route. This conditioning weakens our mental resilience and makes it difficult to delay rewards for long-term gain. Additionally, fear of failure often prevents people from committing fully to their goals. Instead of confronting discomfort, they rationalize their inaction and hide behind excuses. Laziness, negative thinking, and lack of purpose further erode self-discipline. When people don't have a clear reason or why behind their actions, it becomes easy to drift aimlessly. Without purpose, effort feels meaningless, and discipline becomes difficult to sustain. Moreover, many people surround themselves with environments that reinforce weakness instead of strength. Friends who encourage procrastination, media that promotes distraction, and lifestyles that reward instant pleasure. To cultivate self-discipline, one must consciously reprogram the mind and environment to support focus, patience, and perseverance. Developing self-discipline begins with awareness, recognizing the moments when you give in to comfort, acknowledging your excuses, and making the choice to act differently. It requires daily practice, small, consistent steps that strengthen your will and align your actions with your goals. The disciplined mind learns to endure discomfort for the sake of progress and finds satisfaction not in indulgence, but in mastery. True freedom comes not from doing whatever you want, but from having control over yourself. Those who master self-discipline unlock the ability to create their own success, no matter the obstacles in their path. Chapter 2. Determine your why. You want to gain self-discipline. Before true self-discipline can take root, you must understand why you want it in the first place. Without a strong reason, even the best techniques or habits will eventually collapse under pressure. The human mind needs a purpose to endure hardship. It needs a compelling motivation that reminds it why the struggle is worthwhile. Most people fail to develop self-discipline not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack clarity about their goals. They drift from one effort to another, acting out of vague desire rather than concrete intention. But when you know your why, every act of discipline becomes meaningful. It stops being a chore and becomes an act of alignment with your deeper purpose. The first step is to define your goals clearly. You cannot discipline yourself towards something you cannot visualize. What do you truly want to achieve? Maybe it's a healthier body, financial independence, academic success, emotional control, or personal growth. Whatever your goal, it must be specific and emotionally charged. Write it down in precise terms. What you want, when you want it, and why it matters. Vague goals like, I want to do better, or I want to be successful, carry no emotional weight. They don't ignite action. The brain responds to detail and meaning. Instead of, I want to be fit, say, I want to lose 15 pounds in 3 months, so I can feel confident, energetic, and proud of my reflection. That emotional pull will remind you of what's at stake when your motivation wanes. Once you have a clear goal, dig deep into the why behind it. The why is the emotional fuel that sustains you when progress feels slow or obstacles appear. Ask yourself, why do I want to achieve this goal? What will it give me that I don't have now? How will my life improve once I've achieved it? The stronger your reasons, the stronger your resilience. People who have a powerful why can endure nearly any how. When you tie your goal to something deeply personal, freedom, family, pride, health, peace of mind, it stops being an abstract idea and becomes a moral commitment. You're no longer just trying to build discipline, you're defending something that matters. To strengthen your why, visualize the end result vividly. Imagine yourself living the outcome, how it looks, how it feels, how it changes your daily experience. Let that image become real in your mind until it feels tangible. Visualization is not mere fantasy, it's mental rehearsal. When you consistently see yourself succeeding, your subconscious begins to accept that image as truth and directs your behavior accordingly. At the same time, visualize the process itself. See yourself doing the hard things, waking up early, working out, studying, resisting temptations, staying focused. This helps train your mind to associate effort with success, not suffering. But motivation is not only about the reward, it's also about the cost of inaction. If you want to strengthen your self-discipline, you must confront what happens if you don't change. What will your life look like in a year if you continue as you are now? What dreams will you abandon? What regrets will you carry? Human beings are driven both by the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. When you understand the pain of stagnation, the price of laziness, and the consequences of giving in to comfort, you begin to realize that discipline is not a burden, it's liberation. You are going to experience discomfort either way, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One leads to progress, the other to resentment. Choose the pain that pays off. Building a strong why also means aligning your goals with your values. Self-discipline feels effortless when your actions reflect who you truly are. If your goals are rooted in external approval, seeking validation, competition, or fear of judgment, they will eventually lose power. But if they arise from your inner convictions, they will endure. Ask yourself, does this goal reflect what I truly want, or what others expect of me? True discipline requires honesty. You cannot stay committed to a pursuit that conflicts with your authentic self. When your goals express your values, every disciplined action reinforces your identity rather than depleting it. Once you've clarified your why, write it down and revisit it daily. Make it visible, on your phone background, mirror, or journal. Read it when you wake up and before you go to bed. The more you remind yourself of your purpose, the more naturally your actions will align with it. Discipline weakens when we forget why we started. Life's noise, stress, and routine can blur our vision, so you must constantly renew your connection to your goal. Some people even keep two lists, one of the benefits they'll gain from staying disciplined and one of the consequences if they don't. Seeing both can reignite focus and strengthen resolve. There will be days when you feel tired, unmotivated, or uninspired. These are the moments when your why becomes your anchor. Motivation fades, emotions fluctuate, but purpose endures. Think of your why as the compass that guides you through the fog of uncertainty. When you're tempted to procrastinate or indulge, ask yourself, does this choice serve my purpose? That single question can realign your behavior instantly. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you reaffirm your commitment to your vision. Your why should not remain static. It can evolve as you grow. What drives you today may not drive you in 5 years, and that's okay. Self-discipline thrives when it's tied to a living, evolving purpose. Reassess your reasons periodically and refine them as your understanding deepens. Sometimes your initial goals are stepping stones toward a greater one. What begins as the desire to lose weight may evolve into a desire for longevity and vitality. What starts as a financial goal may grow into a mission to help others. The deeper your purpose, the stronger your discipline becomes. Developing self-discipline without a why is like building a house without a foundation. You may construct impressive habits and routines, but they will eventually crumble when life tests you. Your purpose is what transforms effort into endurance and endurance into mastery. When you know your why, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking whether you feel like doing it. You simply do it because it's part of who you are and what you stand for. Every action, no matter how small, becomes a declaration of your intent. Ultimately, self-discipline is not about restriction, but direction. It channels your energy toward what matters most and prevents you from being pulled in 100 meaningless directions. It is a tool of liberation, not confinement. But it can only serve you if you know where you're going. Once your why is clear, discipline ceases to be a struggle. It becomes a natural extension of your identity, an act of self-love and purpose. You no longer force yourself to act. You are drawn to act because every step brings you closer to the person you are meant to become. Chapter 3. Do not wait for the right feeling or time. Dump all your excuses. One of the biggest obstacles to developing self-discipline is the belief that you must first feel ready. People often wait for the right mood, the perfect timing, or a burst of motivation before they act. They tell themselves they'll start the diet when they feel more energized, begin studying when they feel focused, or change their habits when life slows down. But that day never comes. Waiting for the right feeling is a trap because emotions are fleeting and unreliable. If you depend on how you feel to decide when to act, you'll never build consistency. Self-discipline means doing what needs to be done regardless of your emotional state. Emotions are like weather. They change constantly and cannot be controlled, but your actions can. Successful people understand that progress is made by acting despite their emotions, not because of them. The person who trains for a marathon doesn't run only when it's sunny. They run through rain and fatigue because the goal matters more than comfort. Every time you act when you don't feel like it, You teach your brain that feelings do not dictate your behavior. This mental training strengthens your will and transforms discipline from effort into instinct. Over time, you learn to move first and let motivation catch up later. The idea of the perfect time is another illusion that keeps people stuck. Life will never hand you an ideal moment when everything aligns perfectly for change. There will always be challenges, distractions, and reasons to delay. The right time is always now, because every delay reinforces inaction. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Action creates momentum, and momentum builds motivation. People think motivation leads to action, but the opposite is true. Action generates motivation. Once you take the first step, energy follows. The hardest part of any task is beginning, and the easiest way to overcome hesitation is to simply start, even if it's imperfect. Excuses are the silent killers of self-discipline. They disguise themselves as logic and self-care, but in reality, they are defense mechanisms designed to protect your comfort zone. Excuses sound reasonable. I'm too tired. I don't have time. I need more information. I'll do it tomorrow. But each one is a lie that postpones growth. The truth is, if something truly matters, you will find a way. If it doesn't, you will find an excuse. Self-disciplined people learn to catch these thoughts in real time and challenge them. Instead of saying I can't, they ask, how can I? Instead of saying I'll start later, they decide, I'll start now, even if it's small. This mental shift breaks the pattern of procrastination and reclaims control from the voice of resistance. Most excuses arise from fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of change. When you delay action, you give fear more power. You convince yourself that waiting will make things easier, but in truth, hesitation only strengthens anxiety. The antidote is courage through action. Even a small step forward reduces fear because it replaces uncertainty with experience. Once you start, you realize that the obstacle was never as big as you imagined. The brain learns through doing. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action, it's a result of it. Every time you take action despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable, and this becomes the foundation of unshakable discipline. To overcome excuses, you must become brutally honest with yourself. Excuses often sound noble, but are rooted in self-deception. For example, someone might say, I don't have time to exercise, but they scroll on their phone for an hour each night. The issue is not lack of time, but lack of priority. Another person might say, I work better under pressure, but that's just a justification for procrastination. When you take responsibility for your choices, excuses lose their power. Self-discipline requires radical ownership, the willingness to admit that your results are a reflection of your actions, not your circumstances. One effective strategy for dismantling excuses is to create systems that make action automatic. Relying on motivation is unreliable. Systems make progress inevitable. Set specific schedules, remove distractions, and establish accountability. For instance, if you struggle to wake up early, place your alarm across the room so you must stand up to turn it off. If you want to study daily, block the same time each evening and treat it as a non-negotiable appointment. The goal is to make your environment work for you rather than against you. The fewer decisions you have to make, the less room there is for excuses to take over. Another powerful mindset is to embrace imperfection. Many people delay action because they fear making mistakes or not performing well enough. They tell themselves, I'll start when I'm more prepared, or I need to do more research first. But perfectionism is just procrastination in disguise. Progress requires movement, not mastery. You learn by doing, not by waiting. Taking imperfect action builds momentum, and momentum eventually leads to improvement. Self-discipline is not about doing everything perfectly, it's about showing up consistently. Each time you take imperfect action, you reinforce the habit of persistence. The key to eliminating excuses is awareness. Begin to notice the language you use when you justify inaction. Do you often say, "I can't," "I'll try," or "I should"? Replace these with decisive language. "I will," "I am," "I choose to." Language shapes mindset, and mindset shapes behavior. The moment you speak with certainty, you start to act with conviction. When you hear yourself making an excuse, pause and ask, "Is this really true? Or is this just comfort talking?" The more often you question your excuses, the weaker they become. Ultimately, waiting for the right feeling or time is another form of self-sabotage. Growth happens in motion, not in contemplation. Discipline means doing what must be done, especially when you don't feel like it. Every time you act without waiting for inspiration, you train your mind to obey your goals rather than your moods. You become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of facing discomfort. There will never be a perfect time to start. The perfect time is the moment you decide that excuses no longer define you. Action is the cure for doubt, and discipline is the habit that turns action into transformation. The sooner you stop waiting, the sooner your new life begins. Chapter 4. Take action with your action plan. Knowing your why gives direction, but direction alone means nothing without movement. Action is where discipline becomes real. Many people spend their lives thinking, planning, and waiting, yet never take consistent steps toward their goals. They read books, watch motivational videos, and gather information endlessly, believing preparation is progress. But no amount of thinking replaces the power of doing. Action is the bridge between intention and achievement. Without it, even the most inspiring goals remain fantasies. The disciplined person understands that progress is built not on big leaps, but on small, deliberate actions taken every day, regardless of mood or circumstance. To act effectively, you need an action plan, a clear roadmap that transforms your goal into daily behaviors. An action plan takes your why and gives it structure. It breaks your vision into practical steps, timelines, and systems. Begin by identifying the main goal and the milestones that lead to it. For example, if your goal is to improve your health, break it into smaller objectives: exercising regularly, eating better, sleeping on time. Then, break those objectives into measurable actions. Jog for 20 minutes each morning. Prepare meals in advance. Limit screen time before bed. The clearer your plan, the easier it is to follow. Vague intentions like, "I'll work on it later," invite procrastination, while specific plans like, "I'll go to the gym at 7 a.m. tomorrow," create commitment. Once you've outlined your steps, schedule them. Time is the raw material of discipline, and how you use it determines your success. When you assign each task a time and place, you transform it from a wish into an appointment with yourself. Treat your self-improvement commitments with the same respect as professional or social obligations. Write them into your calendar, set reminders, and remove the mental negotiation about if or when you'll do them. The disciplined mind thrives on structure. A daily routine is not confinement but freedom. It frees you from indecision, distraction, and wasted energy. The more predictable your schedule, the less you rely on willpower to start. Consistency is the foundation of progress. One great effort cannot replace steady persistence. It's better to take small steps daily than to make giant leaps occasionally. Every repeated action strengthens your habits, and habits are the backbone of self-discipline. Think of discipline as a muscle. Each repetition, each small act of follow-through, builds strength. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes automatic. At first, you may struggle to stay consistent, but this is natural. The mind resists change because it seeks comfort. Your job is to persist until the new behavior becomes familiar. The turning point comes when you act not because you must, but because it's simply what you do. Execution demands focus. Many people start strong, but scatter their energy among too many goals. True discipline means prioritizing. You cannot master everything at once. Choose 1 or 2 key areas to work on and give them your full attention. Spreading yourself too thin leads to frustration and burnout. Focus creates momentum, and momentum builds results. When you see progress in one area, your confidence grows, fueling discipline in others. Success compounds. Small victories lead to bigger ones. A common pitfall is mistaking busyness for productivity. Discipline is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. Your action plan should emphasize essential tasks, not distractions that give the illusion of progress. Ask yourself daily, is this moving me closer to my goal or just keeping me busy? Discipline means saying no to the unimportant so you can say yes to what truly counts. It's the ability to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term fulfillment. Accountability also strengthens execution. When you commit to someone, a friend, mentor, or even a journal, you add an extra layer of responsibility. Accountability keeps you honest when motivation fades. If you struggle to stay consistent, track your progress visibly. Write down your completed actions or use a simple checklist. The act of seeing your progress builds positive reinforcement and strengthens your self-image as someone who follows through. Even missed days become lessons, not failures. Review them, learn why you slipped, and adjust your plan. It's also vital to build an environment that supports your goals. Your surroundings influence your actions more than willpower does. If your workspace is cluttered, your diet full of temptations, or your phone filled with distractions, you make discipline harder than it needs to be. Simplify your environment to minimize friction between intention and action. Prepare your gym clothes the night before. Keep healthy food visible and junk food out of reach. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Make the disciplined choice the easiest one. Taking action is not about intensity, it's about continuity. Some days you will feel unstoppable, others drained or uninspired. But the secret of disciplined people is this: they act anyway. They don't wait for motivation, they rely on routine. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not talent, luck, or opportunity. It is persistence. When you act consistently, even imperfectly, progress is inevitable. Each day you show up, you strengthen the belief that you are capable of controlling your life. Finally, remember that execution is not a one-time effort. It is a lifestyle. Your action plan should evolve as you grow. What works at one stage may need refinement later. Periodically review your progress and adjust your strategies. If something isn't working, don't quit, adapt. Discipline doesn't mean rigidity. It means persistence guided by reflection. Learn to celebrate small wins and use them as fuel for continued effort. Progress may be slow, but it is progress nonetheless. In the end, the power of self-discipline lies not in thinking, but in doing. Plans and goals are worthless without execution. Each day you take action, no matter how small, you are shaping your future self. The disciplined mind acts with purpose, guided by clarity and strengthened by consistency. You will stumble, you will feel resistance, but with every act of follow-through, you build momentum that no excuse can stop. Success is not the result of luck or genius. It is the reward of relentless, disciplined action. Chapter 5. Work on overcoming temptations. Temptation is the constant enemy of self-discipline. It whispers in moments of weakness, promising comfort, pleasure, or relief at the cost of progress. Everyone faces it in different forms: food, distractions, procrastination, laziness, or unhealthy habits. What makes temptation powerful is not its appearance, but our response to it. Most people try to resist temptation through sheer willpower, but willpower alone is unreliable. It fades with fatigue, stress, or repetition. To overcome temptation, you must understand it, anticipate it, and build strategies that make resistance automatic rather than emotional. True discipline is not about fighting temptation endlessly. It's about designing your life so that temptations lose their power. The first step is awareness. You cannot defeat what you refuse to recognize. Identify your personal triggers, the situations, emotions, or environments that make you more likely to give in. Some people are most vulnerable when they're stressed, others when they're bored, lonely, or tired. Maybe you procrastinate when facing difficult tasks, or eat junk food when you're anxious. Take time to observe your patterns. Keep a journal if necessary. Each time you slip, note what happened before it. You'll begin to see consistent triggers. Once you know them, you can create strategies to address them instead of being caught off guard. Avoidance is often the simplest and most effective tactic. Many people underestimate the power of environment. If temptation is always within reach, resistance becomes a constant battle. The key is to remove or reduce exposure. If you're trying to eat healthier, don't keep junk food at home. If you want to study, put your phone in another room. If you want to save money, unsubscribe from marketing emails that tempt you to buy. Self-discipline is easier when your surroundings align with your goals. You don't have to be stronger than temptation. You just have to make temptation harder to access. However, avoidance alone is not enough. Temptations are part of life, and you can't escape them all. When you can't remove them, you must reframe them. Instead of seeing temptation as an external enemy, see it as a test, a chance to strengthen your discipline. Every time you resist an urge, you're training your mental muscles. Just like physical exercise, the more you practice, the stronger you become. Each act of resistance builds confidence, and each victory makes the next one easier. This mindset shift transforms temptation from a threat into an opportunity for growth. Replacing bad habits with positive ones is another essential step. The human mind hates a vacuum. When you remove a behavior, you must replace it with something else. If you stop watching television for hours, replace that time with reading or exercise. If you quit social media scrolling, replace it with journaling or learning. The goal is not just to suppress an urge, but to redirect it towards something constructive. Over time, your brain begins to associate satisfaction with healthy behaviors rather than destructive ones. You can't eliminate the desire for comfort or pleasure, but you can train yourself to find it in things that serve your long-term goals. When temptation arises, use the power of delay. Most urges are fleeting. They feel overwhelming at first, but fade if you don't act immediately. The 10-minute rule is a powerful technique. When you feel the impulse to give in, wait 10 minutes before acting. During that time, distract yourself with another task or take deep breaths. Often, by the end of those minutes, the craving has lost its intensity. This delay strengthens your control by proving that you can endure discomfort without surrendering. Each small victory reinforces the belief that you are in charge, not your impulses. Another way to resist temptation is through visualization and consequence awareness. Before giving in to an urge, pause and imagine the outcome. Picture the regret, disappointment, or loss of progress that follows indulgence. Then, visualize the pride and satisfaction of staying disciplined. This mental contrast, seeing both sides clearly, helps your rational mind overpower the emotional one. The more vividly you picture the long-term reward, the less appealing the short-term pleasure becomes. You begin to understand that every choice is a trade, a momentary comfort, or a permanent gain. Mental resistance also requires building tolerance for discomfort. The modern world trains us to seek constant ease, instant entertainment, fast food, quick fixes, but growth demands patience and endurance. When you learn to sit with discomfort without immediately seeking relief, you develop strength. Start small. Delay gratification in simple ways. Take a cold shower. Skip unnecessary snacks. Work for an extra 15 minutes before taking a break. Each act of voluntary discomfort increases your emotional resilience. Over time, what once felt unbearable becomes manageable, and what was once temptation becomes irrelevant. It's important to remember that occasional slips are natural. Discipline is not perfection, it's persistence. When you give in to temptation, don't spiral into guilt or self-criticism. Instead, analyze what happened. What triggered the lapse? What could you do differently next time? Learn, adjust, and move forward. Every setback can become a lesson if you treat it as feedback rather than failure. The most disciplined individuals are not those who never fall, they are those who rise quickly and continue. Finally, focus on the long-term rewards rather than the fleeting pleasure of the moment. Temptation thrives on immediacy. It appeals to your short-term emotions, not your long-term vision. Each time you resist, you reaffirm your commitment to the person you want to become. The satisfaction of staying disciplined lasts far longer than the temporary comfort of indulgence. When you align your actions with your future self, you experience a deeper kind of fulfillment, one that grows with every act of control. Overcoming temptation is not about denying pleasure forever. It's about learning when and how to say yes and when to say no. It's about mastering your impulses so that your decisions come from purpose, not weakness. Every time you choose long-term benefit over short-term satisfaction, you strengthen your self-discipline and move closer to freedom. The freedom to act, not react. The goal is not to eliminate temptation from life, but to rise above it, confident that your actions reflect your highest intentions. Chapter 6. Motivate and Nurture Yourself. Motivation is the fire that begins your journey, but it rarely burns at full strength forever. The truth about self-discipline is that even the most determined people lose drive at times. Excitement fades, challenges multiply, and routines start to feel dull. That is when true motivation must come from within, not from external inspiration or short-lived enthusiasm. Self-motivation is about creating systems, thoughts, and habits that remind you daily why your goals matter and why giving up is not an option. It's learning how to refuel your spirit so you can keep moving forward long after the initial spark is gone. The first step in sustaining motivation is reconnecting with your purpose. When you feel unmotivated, it's rarely because your goal is impossible. It's because you've lost sight of your why. Revisit the reasons you started. Reflect on what you wanted to change and who you wanted to become. Remind yourself that the journey is not about perfection, but progress. Visualization helps reignite focus. Imagine the satisfaction, pride, and peace of achieving your goal. Feel it vividly. The mind is deeply influenced by what it pictures repeatedly. By bringing your why back into focus, you reawaken the emotional energy that drives discipline. Another essential part of motivation is tracking and celebrating progress. Most people make the mistake of focusing only on how far they still have to go, which creates frustration. Instead, look back at how far you've come. Even small improvements are proof of effort, and effort is what builds momentum. Keep a journal or checklist to record your achievements, no matter how minor. Seeing your progress written down gives you tangible evidence that your work matters. Reward yourself for consistency. Watch a movie, take a day off, or treat yourself in a meaningful way. Rewards signal to your brain that effort leads to pleasure, reinforcing positive behavior. Motivation also requires nurturing, just like a plant that needs sunlight and care. You must create an environment and mindset that feed your growth. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, those who share your values, challenge your thinking, and hold you accountable. Avoid those who constantly complain, mock ambition, or encourage laziness. Their negativity drains your mental energy. Instead, spend time around individuals who embody the discipline and success you seek. Read books, listen to podcasts, and consume content that uplifts your mind. The more positive input you receive, the stronger your internal motivation becomes. Equally important is the way you speak to yourself. Self-talk can either destroy or sustain your drive. When you stumble or fall behind, Resist the urge to criticize yourself. Guilt and self-blame only feed discouragement. Replace harsh judgment with understanding. Tell yourself, I made a mistake, but I'm still on the path. Self-compassion does not mean making excuses. It means refusing to quit because of a temporary setback. The most disciplined people are not those who never fail. They are those who recover quickly. Treat every challenge as feedback, not failure. Learn the lesson and adjust your strategy. When motivation fades, discipline must take the lead, but discipline also thrives when supported by emotional renewal. Rest and reflection are crucial. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a signal that you need balance. Take time to recharge your energy, sleep well, eat nourishing food, spend moments in nature, or practice meditation. A tired mind cannot sustain effort, and exhaustion eventually erodes willpower. Self-care is not indulgence, it's preparation. You cannot pour from an empty cup. By nurturing your physical and mental health, you ensure that your motivation has a strong foundation. One of the most effective ways to reignite motivation is through gratitude. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your energy shifts. Gratitude transforms struggle into privilege. It reminds you that growth, even when difficult, is an opportunity. Instead of saying, I have to do this, say, I get to do this. Gratitude rewires the brain to associate effort with fulfillment rather than sacrifice. Each challenge becomes a chance to prove your strength, each obstacle a lesson in resilience. Another key to staying motivated is flexibility. Rigid plans often break under pressure, but adaptable plans evolve. If your strategy isn't working, don't see it as failure. See it as feedback. Maybe your schedule needs adjustment, or your goals need refinement. The disciplined mind knows that persistence doesn't mean doing the same thing repeatedly. It means continuing to move forward, learning from each step. When you stay open to change, motivation finds room to breathe. Setbacks are inevitable, but they don't define you. Your response does. When progress slows, instead of giving up, step back and analyze what's happening. Are you overwhelmed, unfocused, tired? Sometimes, what feels like a lack of motivation is simply mental fatigue or confusion about priorities. Clarify your next step and take one small action. Momentum is built through movement. Even a small effort can reignite the spark. Once you move, energy follows. Finally, nurture patience. In a world of instant gratification, discipline requires you to trust in delayed rewards. Great things take time. Success built on endurance lasts longer than success built on impulse. Remind yourself daily that the process is just as valuable as the result. Every disciplined act, every moment of persistence, shapes your character and strengthens your mind. Motivation may fluctuate, but purpose endures. When you learn to motivate and nurture yourself through self-reflection, gratitude, and compassion, you become unstoppable. Not because you never struggle, but because you never stop growing. Chapter 7. Exercises for developing and boosting self-discipline. Self-discipline, like any other strength, grows stronger through consistent exercise. It is not an abstract concept. It is a mental and emotional muscle that develops with practice. The more you train it, the more natural it becomes to stay focused, committed, and in control. The following exercises are designed to help you build that muscle step by step. Each practice may seem simple, but their true power lies in repetition and consistency. Over time, they will rewire your mind to act with purpose rather than impulse. The first exercise is small daily commitments. Choose one task that challenges your comfort but is simple enough to accomplish daily, such as making your bed immediately after waking, meditating for 5 minutes, or writing a short reflection at night. The purpose is not the task itself, but the act of following through. Each completed commitment sends a signal to your brain that you can rely on yourself. Self-trust is the foundation of self-discipline. When you keep your word to yourself in small things, you develop the strength to keep it in bigger things. Another powerful exercise is delayed gratification. Practice postponing a reward you desire, even briefly. If you crave a snack, wait 10 minutes before eating it. If you want to check your phone, delay it until you finish your current task. Each delay reinforces patience and strengthens your control over impulse. The ability to wait, to endure the discomfort between desire and satisfaction, is one of the clearest markers of discipline. By proving to yourself that you can delay pleasure, you gain freedom from compulsive behavior. Journaling is an exercise that builds self-awareness, which is essential for discipline. Each evening, take a few minutes to write down what you accomplished, where you struggled, and what triggered distraction or temptation. Reflection helps you see patterns you may not notice in daily life. It turns vague feelings into concrete insights. Over time, journaling becomes a form of accountability, a mirror that shows you your progress and setbacks honestly. The more aware you are of your habits, the easier it becomes to change them intentionally. Another useful exercise is the "do it now" principle. Whenever you catch yourself hesitating or saying, "I'll do it later," challenge that thought by acting immediately. Even if you can only do a small part of the task, start now. This practice breaks the cycle of procrastination and rewires your brain to associate thought with action. Over time, you eliminate the mental friction that makes starting difficult. The more often you act immediately, the easier it becomes to follow through without overthinking. Building discipline also requires strengthening your relationship with discomfort. Try a daily discomfort challenge. Choose one small thing each day that pushes you beyond ease. It might be taking a cold shower, waking up 30 minutes earlier, skipping unnecessary snacks, or having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Each act of discomfort expands your tolerance for challenge and teaches your mind that difficulty is not danger. Growth only happens when you are willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of something greater. Accountability magnifies the power of practice. Create public or social commitments that hold you responsible for your actions. Tell a friend your goal, share your progress online, or join a group with similar objectives. When others know your intentions, the desire to maintain integrity increases your consistency. Accountability transforms discipline from a private struggle into a shared commitment. Visualization exercises are another powerful way to condition your mind. Each morning, spend a few minutes imagining yourself acting with discipline throughout the day. Visualize waking up early, staying calm under pressure, resisting temptations, and completing tasks with focus. This mental rehearsal prepares your brain to behave accordingly. The more vividly you picture disciplined action, the more naturally it becomes your default response. To strengthen discipline further, practice single-task focus. In an age of constant distraction, doing one thing at a time is a powerful act of control. Choose a task and commit to doing only that. No multitasking, no checking messages, no switching tabs. Even 10 minutes of undivided focus trains your mind to resist distraction. Over time, extend this focus period gradually. The ability to direct your attention fully to one thing is one of the highest forms of discipline. One of the most effective long-term exercises is habit tracking. Create a simple chart or use an app to record your daily disciplined actions, such as exercising, reading, meditating, or working on a project. Each time you complete an activity, mark it down. The visual record of your consistency builds momentum. Seeing a streak of successful days motivates you to continue, while missed days remind you to get back on track. This method turns self-discipline into a game where progress becomes satisfying in itself. Lastly, practice self-reward and reflection. Discipline does not mean self-denial without joy, it means balance. When you complete a week of consistent effort, reward yourself thoughtfully. Take time to reflect on what you learned and how you've grown. Positive reinforcement strengthens the connection between effort and fulfillment. Over time, you begin to enjoy the process itself rather than just the result. Developing self-discipline through these exercises is a journey, not a one-time effort. Each practice, performed consistently, builds confidence, focus, and mental strength. You won't always feel motivated, and you will sometimes stumble, but every act of persistence matters. Self-discipline grows slowly, quietly, and steadily until it becomes part of who you are. The ultimate reward is freedom. The freedom to act according to your values and goals, rather than being controlled by habit or impulse. Through daily practice, you will discover that discipline is not a burden, but a gift. The power to shape your life deliberately, one choice at a time. Conclusion. Self-discipline is not a single act of willpower or a temporary burst of motivation. It is a lifelong process of mastering yourself. It begins with understanding your purpose, your why. Without a clear reason behind your actions, persistence quickly fades. Knowing why you want to change gives meaning to every struggle and strength to every effort. It fuels your determination when circumstances become difficult and helps you endure when progress feels slow. Purpose gives direction to discipline, turning it from a burden into a calling. From that foundation comes planning. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Discipline thrives in structure, when your time, habits, and environment are organized to support your purpose. Every plan transforms your intention into a roadmap. It helps you focus, prioritize, and take deliberate action instead of reacting to distractions. Through planning, you prepare your mind and create systems that make the disciplined choice easier and the impulsive one harder. Action is where all ideas come to life. Taking consistent, purposeful steps each day builds the habits that define your future. It's not the size of the effort that matters, but its regularity. Each time you show up, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your inner resolve. Action builds momentum, and momentum turns discipline into instinct. What once required conscious effort eventually becomes a natural part of who you are. Along the way, temptations will test your commitment. Distractions will try to pull you away from your purpose, and comfort will whisper that you've done enough. But self-discipline is forged in these moments. The quiet decisions that no one sees, the small victories over impulse, and the repeated choice to stay the course. Every time you resist what weakens you, you reinforce what strengthens you. There will be times when motivation fades, but that is when nurturing yourself becomes vital. Rest, reflection, and gratitude replenish your inner energy. Discipline is not about punishing yourself, it's about respecting your limits while continuing to grow. Celebrate small wins, learn from setbacks, and remember that progress is not always visible day to day, but it accumulates over time. Growth happens quietly, beneath the surface, until one day the results speak for themselves. Practice turns discipline into identity. The more you exercise it, the less you have to force it. Through daily repetition, acting with intention, resisting temptation, nurturing motivation, and learning from experience, you build a mindset that no longer depends on fleeting emotions. You become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. In the end, self-discipline is not about restriction, but liberation. It frees you from the control of impulses, excuses, and fears. It allows you to live according to your values and pursue your goals with clarity and confidence. The journey is continuous. There is no final destination, only deeper mastery. With consistent effort and faith in your ability to improve, you can cultivate a disciplined mind that unlocks your greatest potential. Every act of discipline is a step toward becoming the person you were meant to be.